Hey guys, it's Hayden here. Today I want to talk about my experience with a psychedelic substance known as DMT. So most of you watching this video probably already know what DMT is, but a quick breakdown of it is it's a very powerful psychedelic compound that is found in a lot of living things. It's been popularized by Rick Strassman. He wrote a book about it. There's also a documentary about it. You can check those out if you're more interested in learning more about DMT. There's also plenty of videos online of other people sharing their experiences with DMT. So my trip that I had was November 5th, 2012, so it was a while back. And originally I was not planning on doing DMT. I was interested in psychedelics at the time, and I had spoken to someone that I knew about psychedelics because I knew that he had some experience with them, and told him that I was interested in altered states and exploring consciousness and things like that. I ended up going to his house, and we smoked some pot. I smoked a lot of pot. I was really high when I got to the point of actually ingesting the DMT. But essentially what happened is he took it upon himself to give me DMT without my knowledge, which is really kind of messed up. But I ended up having a positive trip experience, but it did result in me having my first psychotic break, which I'll probably cover in a different video. From what I remember, I only took one hit. I remember him telling me to take a big hit and hold it in as long as possible, and I thought it was just pot. So I was like, okay, whatever, no big deal. And the next thing I knew, the room was full of colors, and the air had like a density to it, and everything was kind of soft and like pillowy and flowy. I couldn't like move my body. I was just in a state of complete awe, and I was just looking around and just like in amazement, sort of like a childlike wonder, looking around and taking it all in. And I didn't really know what was happening. I didn't even think what was happening. I was just so entrenched in this experience of seeing these colors and things. And then I turned over and looked. It wasn't like I was guiding myself. Like I just like moved. I didn't think about moving. I moved, and I saw the guy who'd given me the DMT. And again, at this time, I didn't know that I was on DMT. I saw his soul, and I saw his soul as like an old sickly person. It was strange to see that. I'd never seen someone's soul before like that, and I just remember thinking that he's not well, like he's not doing well. And then I also had this memory of having played with him in a previous lifetime in a previous dimension, like a long time ago. And so that was my first experience having like a past life thing come up, and I've had other ones since then. But that was my first exposure to the potential reality of past lives and different existences and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And then I slowly like kind of turned inwards. My eyelids naturally just kind of shut. I didn't think about closing my eyelids. And there was just darkness and this silence. And I could like really clearly hear my thoughts. Like I would have like one thought, and it would like echo out into the distance, and then there'd be silence. And then I'd have another thought, and it would echo out into the distance, and then there'd be silence. It was like a very deep meditative state, where everything was very clear and crisp, and tranquil in a lot of ways. It was a very peaceful state. And then there was these dots that started showing up. So it was just like a little dot like in the middle of my field of vision, and it would make like a bloop noise every time it came up. So it would be like bloop, bloop, bloop. And then so I interpreted that while I was tripping. I was interpreting that as I was moving back into time, sort of like moving back into like what it would be like as an infant. And that these were messages of how to function in the world, how to integrate coming from another dimension into this dimension to be able to function in this world and speak like I'm speaking to you in this camera. So as infants, like we're kind of in between two states and we're trying to acclimate to this reality. And so my interpretation of those bloops was like, basically infants are learning things like one thing at a time very slowly until they have enough information, enough knowledge to be able to function and integrate into this world so they can function. So that was definitely interesting. Not sure how much validity goes to that, but it felt really cool and it was interesting to sense that. And then eventually those bloops went away, and I kind of felt like that phase was over, and I moved into the silence again for a moment. And then I felt pulled into the couch. So I didn't really feel the couch. I didn't really feel my body at this time. I felt like I had a body, but it wasn't like a physical body. It just felt kind of like there was an idea of me having some kind of contained presence to some degree, if that makes sense. And all of a sudden, I feel cocked backwards, like I'm getting ready to be launched, like in a roller coaster or something like that. All of a sudden I start to hear this ringing noise, and it goes boop, and it gets louder and louder and louder. And at this point I'm like, oh shit, like this is not good. It felt very familiar. It's almost like I'd been there before. And I don't know if that's something that most people experience with DMT when they're at the breakthrough stage. I didn't have a breakthrough experience, which is probably good, because if I had a psychotic break because of this experience, I can't imagine what would have happened if I actually did have a breakthrough. And so I resisted it because I was scared. I was like, I'm not ready to die. Like the sense that I got was that I was gonna die. I was gonna leave my body. I was like, no. We're not gonna do this. So it gave me 3 chances to leave my body, but I resisted each time because I was too scared. And then on the 3rd time I resisted, I basically just blacked out. I don't remember anything after that. And I think it might be because I was so high on pot that like I may have just fallen asleep as I came down from the trip, and that was like the end of the trip. But I'm not really sure. I don't know what really happened, but I woke up later, and then that's when my psychosis started. That was when I had gone into a psychotic state, and I ended up in the hospital for like a week or more after that. And maybe I'll explain that story in a different video. But the trip itself was a beautiful, very powerful, and interesting experience. There wasn't in some ways there wasn't a whole lot to it, but in other ways there was a lot to it. There was a lot going on, just because it was such a new space, a new dimension for me that I had never experienced, at least in this life. It was a good experience. The psychosis afterwards was not necessarily a pleasant experience, and that's a risk that can happen with these kind of substances. Is we're playing with altered states and we're playing with different dimensions, and sometimes if you can't handle it, then it can result in you having some kind of break from reality. And I do have bipolar disorder in my family, and I've been diagnosed bipolar. And so that could have something to do with it, where I'm predisposed to altered states. And so having that sort of trigger, and I don't think the pot helped either, because there's cannabis-induced psychosis as well. Just know the risks when you do substances like this. And I'm not advocating for these substances. I'm just sort of saying what my experience was. I certainly would not have done DMT had he asked me. I would have said no. I was looking for something more mild, like shrooms or something like that, to get me into it. I think that these substances are very powerful, and it's important to do your research. It's important to make sure that you have the correct set and setting when you're doing these substances, if you choose to do so, and really make sure you are assessing the risks and making sure that you're being safe about it, because they can be powerful tools. But when used incorrectly, or done in a way that is not conducive to healing and a good experience, it can be very destructive and can really mess up your life. So just be careful with these substances. That being said, thanks for watching. If you'd like to like or comment below, let me know what you thought about the video. If you'd like to see more videos by me, you can check out my channel. If you want to hear about my psychosis, then I'd be glad to share that. Just comment below and let me know if that's something you'd be interested in hearing about. As always, make sure to seek your truth and to take time for yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.